we are at the end of our series, if you will, on spiritual disciplines, and I offer this to you as we've offered every week. We have copies of Celebration of Discipline by Richard Foster available if you'd like to dive in deeper with those. And I would love for us to continue as a church to be talking about spiritual disciplines, how we can do them better, and practice the presence of walking with the Lord all the time. And so, a few things. This morning we're talking about celebration, and I can't think of a worse person to preach on this than me, I think. And before that, though, I wanted to just give a shout out to Daniel and our worship team for just organizing a really excellent musical worship service. So thank you this morning. I don't know about you, but I was telling Janelle today, I woke up sad, and I don't know why. And then I'm like, oh man, what a great day to come and preach about celebration is a day when you wake up sad. And the worship arrangement this morning had really helped me center and focus and get ready today. And so I'm very much appreciative of that. So we've been going through these disciplines. We call this inward, outward, and upward. And this last discipline is celebration. That's kind of something we're supposed to be doing. And it's something we can do individually. It's something we can do together. It's something we want to do together. And it's something I want to do better together and by myself as well. And if you've ever been part of one of our life groups, we take this moment where we ask, what are you celebrating? So I'm gonna pull the veil back a little bit. I'm gonna show you little inward secrets. I put that in the document because 4 years ago, no, longer, 10 years ago, I don't know. At the last church I started a decade ago, one of the people on our staff came up to me and said, Dustin, you are always on the next thing, and you never take any time to celebrate and acknowledge what we've done. And I was like, you're right. All right, now let's start on the next thing. But it was 100% true. And so when it came to forming together, I had to write in all of my personal notes the word celebrate in big capital letters. I needed to do that. Now, what's happened is because that's not who I am, and I just turned it into something I do. So a lot of our groups, it's a lot of reporting. Hey, what are you celebrating? Right? Just give us the report. And actually, when I came to Garden Church early on, I sat in the first leadership meeting, and I heard Caleb do the same thing. And I said, kindred spirits, here we are. And so really, with celebration, I have been, I think the Lord has orchestrated it in such a way. We've had Jeremiah and Water preaching over the last several weeks, and that's given me a lot of time to just chew on this. Chew on it, sit with it, be with it. And so I hope we get somewhere today with it. And so if you're a note taker, the big idea, the thing I was what on earth do I teach people? What am I supposed to say? What am I teaching myself? And I thought of this, and I chose such a complex passage and story, and don't worry, we're going to get into all of it. But this is our idea this morning, that the movement and presence of God stirs us to celebrate. That the movement and presence of God in our lives, it stirs us to celebrate. If we recognize it, if we take time for it, which is really what all these spiritual disciplines are about. It's not that fasting or prayer somehow levels me up in holiness or greatness or goodness. It's actually that when I practice these spiritual disciplines, I observe and see something that was already there. And I was thinking about celebration is and very much the capstone of all the spiritual disciplines. The boys' book is literally called The Celebration of Disciplines. And I'm oh, yeah, that makes sense, because what we are doing is we are remarking and recognizing what God has done, who God is, and that has been the same since yesterday and always. And I wanted to add just one simple principle to it, because if you are like me and you are the Garfield of celebration, some celebration just ticks you off. Sometimes you see people rejoicing and you're like, we got work to do. Is this, we are supposed to be building a mountain and we've built an anthill. What are they rejoicing about? Some celebrations done in our society that might upset you because it might be offensive to you. And I wanted to add just this principle to our celebration, that Christian celebration happens inside of reverence for God and respect for others. That when we're celebrating, that it's still, guess what? Jesus taught us this long, long ago, that our love for the Lord and the love for our neighbor should still be the guiding principles. And so with that, I give you a map of where we're going, and I'm very happy with this one. I don't love all the maps I make, but the first one is do not touch. King with few clothes. I was going back and forth between emperor with no clothes, but he has some. Royalty worth celebrating is our final destination. And so with that, we'll get to the do not touch. And so just to give you a brief summary of everything we heard Emma say, we made her read the whole chapter. One of the things I want to make point to you is that here in 2 Samuel 6, David has effectively just become king, taken the capital to Jerusalem, and is bringing now God's presence, the Ark of the Covenant. For those of you who have seen Indiana Jones, the first one, you know exactly what I'm talking about, the box with God in it, right? He's bringing that into his capital to celebrate, really, the nation that loves God. And this story is fraught with confusing things and error. They're bringing the ark on a cart. It starts to tip over. This guy Uzzah goes to still it, and he dies instantly. And that's I've seen that part of Indiana Jones too, right? So he goes to hold it, and the cart keeps on moving. They leave it at some guy's house because David's like, how are we even supposed to move this thing? And at where they leave it, it makes this home prosper with abundance, and just it grows. And then David's like, man, we got to go get that box. They go get it. They bring it back to Israel, to the capital, and to Jerusalem. And it's in Israel. It takes it to the Jerusalem capital. And what happens next is David, who's the king, kind of breaks some code, and he wears the ephod that the priests are supposed to wear. But because David's not a priest, he doesn't know you got to wear more clothes than that top garment. And he's kind of dancing, and I've got some imagination. I know kind of what's happening. But they're giving sacrifices. He's dancing. There's some, quote, nakedness going on. And meanwhile, as every husband knows that when you are scantily dressed dancing with some others, particularly women, your wife might not be too happy. And it's Michal is up there in the window, and she sees her half-naked husband dancing and rejoicing, and David gets before her at the end, and she's like, some king you are. This is the big inauguration, the new capital, God's presence with us, and what are you doing? You look like a fool. To which David kind of doubles down, maybe not the best move here, and says, well, you know what? I'll be as indignant and ridiculous as I possibly can to honor what God's done for me. Michal, his first wife, the daughter of Saul, has a lot of conflicting emotions. And as Emma Gosen said during Sermon Club, those two must have not hung out much after that, which then the text confirms they didn't have any kids. And that is our story on celebration this morning. And so what do we do with that? So let's get through it. So again, we'll start in Samuel 6:1. I'm going to try and move through it. It's a lot of text. So David, he gathers these folks of Israel, 30,000 in verse 1. And David arose. He went to all the people who are with him. He went to these hard cities to bring up the ark of God, which is called by the name of the Lord of hosts, who sits enthroned on the cherubim. The ark of God has a seat on it. They call it the mercy seat. It is literally like carrying God's throne chair, right? That's kind of the idea. And they're bringing it through. And then in 4 it says, with the ark of God, and Ahio went before the ark. And, oh, no, I missed it. Verse 3, they carried the ark of God on a new cart and brought it out of the house of Abinadab, which was on the hill. And Uzzah and Ahio, the sons of Abinadab, were driving the new cart. So there's these two guys. They got this new cart. They're bringing the box of God with them, right? And kind of, again, just to hit at this idea that David is a king, he's not a priest. He doesn't really know the law and the Torah as well as he should. They're already breaking the law of what God's asked. And so if we look at Exodus 25, 12 through 15, God is like really clear on how you're supposed to carry his ark. He says that you shall cast like 4 rings of gold for it, and then you put these rings on the side and 2 rings on the other side, and you're going to make poles of acacia wood and overlay those with gold, and you're going to put the poles and the rings of the sides of the ark to carry it. And then he says this, the poles shall remain in the rings of the ark, and they shall not be taken from it. And so you're supposed to carry this thing via the poles, but the text says that they put it on a new cart. Well, you're like, well, what's the old cart? The old cart is the people who stole it. They got it and they put it on, like, I guess, it just says cart, and they wheeled it on out of Israel long ago. And so what he does is he takes it back and he just gets a different cart. He doesn't know the way that you're supposed to be handling it. He's not familiar with any of the priestly laws. He's not a Levite. He's just a dude. Matter of fact, he's a warrior. He listens to the priests and the prophets. And then here in this moment, he recognizes he needs to bring God in, and he wants to go do it himself. So then it says that David, in verse 5, and all the house of Israel, they were celebrating before the Lord with songs and lyres and harps and tambourines and castanets and cymbals. And when they came to the threshing floor of Nacon Uzzah, he put out his hand to the ark of the God, and he took a hold of it because the oxen had stumbled. So if you imagine there's this cart, it's being pulled, and Uzzah and Ahio are kind of in charge of making sure it's staying stable, and it starts to fall. And Uzzah does what I think any one of us in this room would do. It starts to fall, I'm going to catch it. There's a viral video that's been going on the internet for a bit about this. Have you seen the truck that's on the edge of the ditch, and there's this one guy holding it? Have y'all seen this video? And the person who drove the truck said, "You're not doing anything." And he lets go, and literally the whole semi falls into the ditch. It was right at the fulcrum point where his weight was just enough to hold that truck from the ditch. I just imagine, oh yeah, people would do that. The ark of God's going to fall over. I'm going to catch it. He goes and he catches it, and it says in verse 7, it says, the anger of the Lord was kindled against Uzzah, and God struck him down there because of his error, and he died there beside the ark of God. And you read that and you're like, well, that's the heart of God. What the heck? But this is part of, you got the wrong people doing the wrong thing. They have the ark, it's not even supposed to be in this cart. Error 1. Error 2 is if they knew the Torah. Numbers 4:15 says this, and when Aaron and his sons have finished covering the sanctuary and all the furnishings of the sanctuary as the camp sets out, after that the sons of Kohath shall come to carry these, but they must not touch the holy things lest they die. These are the things of the tent of meeting that the sons of Kohath are to carry. In Numbers, they're like, hey, no one should touch these things. You're going to die if you do it. There's a certain reverence and respect for how things are supposed to be done, how God wants them to be done. And so there's all these clear instructions that God gives. And David effectively this is really poor leadership. This guy dies on David's watch because they're not carrying it in the way that they have for thousands of years. They're not treating it in the way that they're supposed to be. And it starts to fall over because it's not being carried right. And then it gets touched because David didn't instruct the people on whether or not you should touch it. It's do not touch this thing. Even Indiana Jones knows that. He says, even when they open it in the movie, he looks away, don't look at it. Right? And it's really we read this story and it's complex because we don't understand the big idea behind it. That really this merging of the priests and the king, and if you've listened to any of the preaching over the last few weeks, our God is supposed to be our king in these stories, but the people wanted a person. And we get David, and David, he doesn't know the law. He doesn't know Scripture super well. And because of that, and because of his poor planning, his poor leadership, Uzzah dies. This is what it says in verse 8. It says, David was angry because the Lord had broken out against Uzzah. David doesn't know. David is angry with God, even though God had provided instruction. Like David has gone around everything God had instructed, everything in the Word, and he doesn't know what he's done. And he's angry with God because Uzzah's dead. And it says the place is called Perez Uzzah to this day. And David was afraid of the Lord that day, and he says this, how can the ark of the Lord come to me? And I think I've been thinking about that line over and over and over again, is that when you experience tragedy in your life, you ask, how can the presence of God be with me? And things happen that you don't understand, and you're upset, and the things that you're wrestling with become about you. Like you feel like there's something deficient in you. You feel like there's some reason that God is hurting you, or like that you've done something. And that therefore God doesn't want to be with you, or that his presence isn't for you. And it says in 10, so David wasn't willing to take the ark of the Lord. He just chose to leave it. And they left it at this guy's house, Obed-Edom, the Gittite. But the presence of God is life. It's abundance. It's goodness. And it says that the ark of the Lord remained in the house of Obed-Edom, the Gittite, for 3 months. And the Lord blessed Obed-Edom and all his household. Like where the God's presence was, abundance and goodness, celebration, joy, all of it began to get stirred up. Which leads us to the next place on the map, the king with few clothes. So in 12 it says, David was told about the presence of God in the ark blessing this house. And he's like, hey, let's go get that back. And then he says, and then they bring it back with rejoicing. And he's changed his tune a little bit. Maybe the first part of the journey, he had no reverence or respect for the life-giving Almighty God. Now it says this. He says, when those who bore the ark had gone 6 steps, he sacrificed an ox and a fatted animal. He kind of swung way the other way. He was like, they went from 0 respect and reverence to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, another cow. Right? There's like, we have got to honor the Lord for his goodness, and like we have to treat who God is in a different way than I think we were. God isn't here to effectively serve us, but we're also there to serve him, and he loves us and takes care of us and serves us through Jesus and his blessings and goodness and life. And so he's getting his head around it, but I can imagine how long this journey must have been then, if this is in fact how many steps, 6 and sacrifice, and 6 and sacrifice. He's starting to understand that what the priests do actually matter and mean something. And then it says that he danced before the Lord with all of his might. They were really happy with making lots of noise with the cymbals and everything's before, but he himself trying to like channel that joy and celebration, to dance, to honor God in some sort of way. And then it says this, he was wearing a linen ephod, which is like this breastplate piece on the robe. What the priest wore had multiple layers, but he's wearing kind of like the top layer that has this breastplate with those stones in it that have all the tribes' names on it. It's really symbolic and representative of what a priest wears. So he's putting on priestly garments, though he himself, again, he's not a priest. He's not a Levite. He's from a different family. He is breaking tradition all over this thing. And so he's dancing, he's wearing the ephod. And so David and all the house of Israel, they brought up the ark of the Lord, and with shouting and the sound of the horn, right? They're making a lot of noise because the presence of God, they know it's good. Even though Uzzah's passed, there's still some sort of hope that life and goodness flows from the presence of God. And it's stirring in these people celebration and joy that maybe the world of abundance is right here before them, if they recognize it. And it says this, that as the ark of the Lord came into the city of David, Michal, the daughter of Saul, the queen mother, right? The number one to the number one guy to the number one God, right? The third most important person in the entire nation. She's looking out the window and she sees David leaping and dancing before the Lord. And it said she despised him in her heart. And I'm like, I know that. Man, yes, that's me. All these happy people. Dawn and I used to be like, they're happy because they don't know how bad life is. If you've been there, and you've got that resentment, and you see when you don't have joy and when you're not stirred to celebration, when you see other people doing it, again, they're building the anthill, and you're like, look at the things they're celebrating. Look at the stupid things they're acting and doing. If only they knew. If only they knew how bad things were, how bad they are. I totally channel the Michal energy in my life. You might not see it because I know it's not healthy. So I'm trying to manage it. And so she's looking and she sees and resents her own husband in her heart. And then it says they brought the ark of the Lord. They set it in its place inside of the tent that David had pitched for it. They made a little house for it, kind of like a mobile temple that will stick around for a while. And then it said David offered burnt offerings and peace offerings before the Lord. This is the beginning of the foundation of the temple in the city. This is the proto-temple, the kind of, this is like, where was Garden Church, in Southwest? This is Garden Church Southwest, way back when it was Spring of Life. The Spring of Life, for those who've been around the church, know the old names. So he finished the burnt offerings and the peace offerings, and he blessed the people in the name of the Lord of hosts. He says, this is a good thing that God's presence is with us in our city, with us in our nation, present with us. And again, this is in reflection, I think, of the death of Uzzah, the lack of reverence. There's a complexity to celebration and joy because I think that's what we think, that celebration somehow erases the pain, the suffering, the hurt. And I think that's what people like me have problem with, is that I'm still meditating on the bad that's happened, that I have a hard time looking forward to the good and the life and the joy of the future. I live eternally in the past, even though the past doesn't exist. All I have right now is my present moment. The past, as it would have, and becomes literally a figment of your imagination. Yes, it did happen, but I'm here now, and I think about Michal, and I'm like, man, she cannot stay in the present moment. She's lost her father and her brother. Effectively, David and her father were enemies. There's a lot of complexity there. There's a lot of sorrow to be had. And she wants to live back there. She doesn't really want to live back there. No one does. But she can't move forward. And it says this, that David, he's only present, it seems, in the idea and the reality that God is with him and with his people, with his new kingship, with this new nation. That there is something really good going on right now, if you take a moment to see it. And it says he distributed among the people, the whole multitude of Israel, the entire nation, it says, both men and women, a cake of bread and a portion of meat. Literally everyone is being fed in celebration with meat too. I had my friend Marta, grew up in Mexico. She told me there was like months she'd go without eating meat. They'd cook meat and they'd like save the broth. And she said often we would just dip our tortillas in the meat broth and just to kind of have that savory flavor. Like the ancient world is often hungry, and this King David is feeding them all. It's a huge sacrifice. It's an economic cost. This new nation is spending all this money on celebration for food to feed everybody. There's a cake of raisins. I'm less excited for that one. Then all the people departed, each to his house, this big celebration. They went home with their raisin cake. They threw it in the trash. I know they did. You get it too. Around Christmas, you get something weird. You're like, I'm not going to eat that. You try a bite. You're like, this is a mistake. There is something about celebration being in the present moment. There is something about generosity and thankfulness and gratitude being channeled and connected to that stirs up celebration. It all comes from God. I find that if I really want to celebrate, I can't be meditating on just all of the sorrow and the pain. But again, I think we think that somehow joy erases that. And maybe you've been in a church context or a family context where we look at the joy and we hope that it erases the pain. We look at and we hope that it erases the hurt, but it doesn't. And I'm not going to tell you it does. I'm not here to tell you that joy and celebration is somehow greater than mourning. I'm here to tell you that this is part of the experience. This is part of following the Lord. This is part of being Christian, is that these two realities exist simultaneously. There is the cross, there is suffering, there is death, but there is also the resurrection and hope and new life. Those don't cancel each other out. They actually work in tandem with one another. You cannot have gratitude and thankfulness if you have not experienced the lack thereof. These things are together. And that's how we might be freed to celebrate better and more. Isn't by pretending that bad things don't happen and that things don't go according to our plans or that we haven't been hurt or experienced deep sorrow. But it's saying that despite all of that, there are things right now I can be thankful for. There's a world of gratitude that the Holy Spirit stirs in me, a wealth of joy to experience. If I make room for it, if I meditate on it, if I see it, if I dwell in it. Which leads us to the last part on our map, royalty worth celebrating. We haven't gotten to the big kicker here. So David returned to bless his household. They blessed the nations with all this food and raisin cakes. And then he gets to Michal, and he's ready to bless his own home. But what's waiting for this joyous, happy, half-naked king? But Michal, the daughter of Saul, came out to meet him. She was a woman on a mission. And if she, again, I get the Michal energy all the time. I'm like, I'm going to put this dude in his place. Justice is my concern. He isn't following the law. He looks like a fool. Some king he is. I'm going to let him know. It is my job. Vengeance is mine, thus says the Lord, and I, the hand of God, will deliver it. Is maybe what she thinks. And she says this, how the king of Israel honored himself today. She says it without even saying it. The sarcasm is just toxic and intoxicating. It is my people kind of language. If you're a pessimist or a sarcastic person, this is the line. She was probably thinking about this in that window the whole time. She is ready to land it. Oh, how the king of Israel honored himself today, uncovering himself today before the eyes of his servants, female servants. Yeah, some king, right? As one of the vulgar fellows shamelessly uncovers himself. Gut punch, gut punch, gut punch. You're no king. You're like these vulgar losers that hang out at the bar half naked and drunk. And David said to Michal this. And this is, to me, the most challenging part in the whole text. It was before the Lord. It was before the Lord I did this. It was in the presence of God that I celebrated. And he chose me above your father. He's hitting at these. He knows that this isn't really about the nakedness thing. He knows that this is really about how her dad and him were sideways. He knows that this is really about how her family was supposed to be ruling this nation, but instead it's another family, it's his family. He says, look, your father, I was chosen over him. And God appointed me as the prince over Israel. Like God gave me some job to do. And the people of the Lord and I will celebrate before God. And I move back and forth over, is this kind of the right response? I think it's just true. What he says is true. And it reflects a sort of being that I have a hard time channeling and being and present with people. That, man, there's something good here, even though there's all of this hurt, even though there's all this pain, that could be present in the way of gratitude and celebration and joy. And then it says this is where I think he goes wrong. I think he looks at her and he says, I will make myself yet more contemptible than this. You think you've seen foolishness? Just wait. This is where it gets into a marital spat. I think had he said the first line and left it, things could have been different. He's like, I can be even more contemptible than this. If you're married, you've had a spouse say that before. You think this is anger? You think I'm mad at you now? I'm being nice. This is something I tell my wife all the time. She's probably getting triggered in the back. I'm sorry. And he says, I will be abased in your eyes. I'm going to look bad in your eyes. But by the female servants of whom you've spoken and criticized, by them I'm going to be held in honor. Because I think what David understands is that, yeah, life is tough. And for these people, the people who are servants of the king, it's not as good as the king, right? But dancing with him, celebrating with him, bringing in the goodness of God, the presence of the Lord, it's going to change things for people. And then, of course, I think this kind of ends the marriage, not legally, but emotionally, relationally. And Michal, the daughter of Saul, had no children to the day of her death. She did not want a family with him, and neither he with her, I suppose. And that's the entire chapter of 2 Samuel 6. That's what we do. I think we have to meditate and reflect on how are we going to live in light of God's presence in our life. That's it. How are we going to continue to live presently in joy and celebration appropriately and not let the sorrow and the pain and the sadness continue to ruin those moments? I don't know if there's anything that can really make those things go away. Those things that hurt you or this pains you have. I don't know if they go away. But I think they can get transformed. I think that's the really good news of the gospel. That things can be transformed and repurposed. And David here is very excited that God has chosen him. And he is this weird priestly king. He is a shadow of a different king that's coming. One who is a better priest than him and a better king. And we believe that person is Jesus. And even more amazing than that isn't who Jesus is, but it's who he makes us. I think that's the real wonder of the gospel. It isn't that I have all my ducks in a row or that I'm great or anything. is that because he was great and good, he does great and good things for me. He transforms and changes everything about my life. And who he makes me is this, the same thing David is. A failure? I am, yes. But also a prince that experiences the presence of God? Yes, too. 1 Peter 2, 9 and 10 say this, that you are a chosen people, a chosen race. You are a royal priesthood, like David. You have royalty, but you also have this priestly reality to you. That you usher in the presence of God for others. And who you are is a son and daughter of the King. You're a holy nation, a people for the Lord's possession, that you may proclaim the excellences of him who called you out of darkness into the marvelous light. He called you out of the darkness. He didn't leave you there. Now, maybe the darkness didn't lead you in the sense that you've continued to meditate and dwell and be on the hurt and not on the celebration. Maybe that's a reality. And that's not something you can easily even get out of sometimes. Sometimes it's a journey, and that's really much the life of following Jesus, is letting him work and press into you to change and transform those moments, to give you vision for how he's working now, how he has been working, how he's going to work for you as you work and serve him. And this is all capitulated in the moment of Jesus' return. This is Revelation 3, 19 through 21, and the hope that even this whole world won't stay in this place. It says that those whom I love, I reprove and discipline. So yeah, be zealous and faithful and repent. Like, live this life of transformation. Don't choose the pain and the sin. Don't choose the moral failure. Choose life. Choose me. And he says, look, I stand at the door and I'm knocking, and if anyone would hear my voice and just open that door, that I would come into him and eat with him and he with me, that the celebration and the abundance of life is right here. And he's like, I'm knocking. I want to be in. I want you to come in so we can dine and feast and celebrate. In verse 21, the one who conquers this, the one who conquers these things, right? I will grant him to sit with me on my throne. Royalty, who you are. As I also conquered and sat down with my Father on his throne. Jesus leads us into these places. That who you are is this like son or daughter of divinity. Who you are is so miraculous, so wonderful, that the movement of God's presence in your life might stir you to celebrate, might transform all these moments for you. And that I think it's going to have to come as a community through gratitude and peace. Being grateful people that we have hope, that we get to be different, that we get to be something different. That your story doesn't have to be your story forever. That can be transformed, transmuted, and changed into something holy and beautiful and wonderful and life-giving. He's like, as he says here in Revelation, that he's like, just like I conquered death, like, yeah, I went on the cross. Yeah, I have something to be bothered by. But I have something to celebrate with you all too. Resurrection, new life, hope. And he says it's available for you. But you have to believe it. You have to have faith and trust it. Yeah, you can write it off as a fairy tale. Yeah, you can move on and say, that's a head knowledge, that's just how it is. Or you can learn to be and dwell in the gospel of Jesus Christ every moment, every day. It's transformative. It stirs us to celebrate. It stirs us to joy. And yes, you have to practice it. It is a discipline. It is a discipline to love joy and goodness and life just as much as those moments that hurt and have been so fraught with purpose and meaning. And I've been really thinking about this. And band, you can come up. This is where I've been really stuck and been meditating on for a long time. People ask this question when they look at suffering, and they say this. How can you believe in God when there's suffering in this world? That's typically the claim. And I've been all through the ideological arguments, and I had this like real epiphany that I've been dwelling on. It's like, man, actually, it's because I suffer that I believe. It's in my suffering that I've been searching for purpose and meaning. And if you're here to tell me that there is none, right? Yeah, if there is no purpose to my suffering, then that's crazy to me. Because I felt it with every fiber of my being. I've searched with it my whole life and tried to say, how has this meant something? And the gospel says it does. It's on the cross. It's in hope. It's in resurrection. Because there's suffering, I believe in goodness, forgiveness, hope. I can be different, that Jesus' death washes away my sin and allows me to walk in a new life. And so this morning, I have no idea what song we're going to sing. Sometimes we sing these really reflective, somber, meditative songs. And maybe that is the kind of song we're singing. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Because who you are and how you show up to it. Are you going to meditate on those moments of pain or the transformation of it? The hope of new life in the gospel that we all get. And maybe you'll do it today and maybe you won't, but maybe you'll do it tomorrow. Or maybe you won't. Maybe you'll spend your life trying to practice this discipline of celebrating. Because we do have something we can be joyful about. The presence of God here with us in each other. His rescue of us, care for us on the cross. And the hope of a good life far into the future.